Hello and welcome back to Handmade Originals, or welcome if you're a first timer. It's very exciting here in the UK at the moment because it's the 1st of June and the sun is shining, and this weekend we have the Platinum Jubilee for our Queen. Her Majesty the Queen has been sitting on the throne in the UK, not non-stop, she does get up to go to the bathroom, for 70 years, which is more than my entire lifetime. So a really big occasion, unlikely ever to be repeated, probably ever in fact. Anyway, so we're all dusting off our tiaras for our garden parties and our street parties. Everyone's celebrating this weekend. But if you don't have a tiara, as most people don't really, I'm going to show you in this video how to make one, and how to make one actually from just bits and bobs you've got in the house, so that no one has to spend a vast amount of money to look very special indeed. Right, so the first thing you have to do whenever you're going to create something new is to draw yourself a little picture and decide what it is you want to make. So I've done roughly 3 designs here. I think I'm going to have a go at the top one. You'll see there are 2 parts to each one. Let me explain my sketchy little drawings. This bit here, this shape behind, is a piece of cardboard in each case. And there, and then I'm going to make some little sort of spindles, which I'll show you in a minute, to go on the top to look sort of a bit like diamonds, I suppose. And these are different types of things that you can do, and obviously this is just to give you an idea. You do your own design. So the first thing you need is a little piece of cardboard, and really you can use a cereal packet or anything to cut something like this sort of shape, or slightly different shape if you're doing one of these other designs. And really you just want it to go here. So that's the bit you're going to see, and that's the bit we're going to decorate. And then you can either put a piece of elastic around the back to hold it on, or you could elongate this card to make it like a circular crown to fit your own size head. But to start with, we're going to decorate this, and then I'm going to show you how to attach it to your head. Right, I'm going to move the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. My idea is simply this. I'm going to use this ordinary kitchen foil, and if you look at kitchen foil, you'll see it's got a very shiny side and a more matte side. So first of all, I'm going to use the straight edge, put it here, fold it over, like there, and then I know I can cut along here, and I've got enough to cover my tiara. Now what I'm going to do, I want this to look like background to my sort of shinier decoration, so I'm going to turn this over and just use the matte side, the back if you like, of the foil, and I'm going to just fold it down like that, fold it down like that, cut off the surface. Fold that back, cut off the surface here, leave that behind. I think already that looks quite pretty, just like that. But what I'm going to do now is embellish it. I'm going to make it look as if it's sort of got diamonds or whatever all over it. Right, so the way I've done this is, this is very old spaghetti, which I had in my cupboard, embarrassingly, and it expired in 2019. So it's either going in the bin or I'm going to use it for a DIY project. And if you have a look in your cupboard, you might find that you've got some very ancient spaghetti as well. But if you don't have ancient spaghetti, you probably need, that's the full length, you probably need about 3 of these. So here's what you do. So each piece, I've broken my spaghetti in half to make it easier to handle, and each piece is about half the width of this foil. So what I'm going to do, cut the foil, cut it in half so it's easier. If it's too big, it's just tricky to handle. And then you can see you really don't need that much. Putting it, I'm going to bring this up to the camera like this. You just turn that edge over, make sure you're not sticking out the end. Turn that edge over and roll it as if you're, well, I suppose, I don't know how old you are, but if you've ever seen people rolling their own cigarettes, this sort of thing, that sort of idea. I have found, as I've been practicing with this, that it's actually easier to just roll one hand, one set of fingers at a time, because if you roll two, it's quite easy to get slightly out of sync, in which case it tears it here. I started off doing little pieces, but actually it's better to do one long piece and then cut it down. Now, spoiler alert, I have actually made some of these already. If you can see them here. So what I'm going to do is just measure some more. So I'm going to put in some which are that length. So I can just get a pair of scissors and cut two. Goes flying across the table. There we are, and I'm going to cut another one. And it's just quite an easy, neat way of doing it. And then I've got two of my little spikes which look a bit sort of glittery. I'm going to decorate them more in a minute, and you'll see. Right, so, you can see I prepared quite a few of them here earlier. And what I'm going to do now, taking my headband, is I am going to position them, starting with the longest one in the middle, which is there. I think that's the longest one. And I'm going to glue them on like that. Now, how are you going to glue them on? Well, you can use any glue really. So I've got Pritt Stick here. I've got sparkly glue, but I'm going to leave that till later. I've also got double-sided tape, and I think I might use that because that's easier to handle. Here we are now. I've completed putting all of the spaghetti covered in foil on the band, which is going to go at the front of the tiara. Don't worry if it's not absolutely perfect, because it's the impact of it that's going to count. Also, the thing that I noticed, which was a bit peculiar, is when I held it up like that to see how they were doing, some little bits of the spaghetti came out at the bottom. It doesn't matter because you've still got the tubular shape, and actually in a way it's better because it makes it lighter on your head. So just make sure you don't crush it with your hand when you're doing anything else. Now, you can leave it like that if you want to, or we can give it a bit more decoration, and that's what I'm going to do. So my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glitter on the front, and then I'm going to put some bigger I'm going to put, and after the glitter I'm going to put some, I found these the other day, little stars, but you could use sequins or beads, or you know, anything you've picked up from the charity shop, or a broken old necklace or something like that. Don't use your mum's pearls. But something that's just going to glitter a little bit. So I'm going to start with this, which is glitter paint, which I've just found. I was having a good old clear out the other day of all the old arts and crafts stuff we had, and I thought, well, I was going to get rid of this, and I thought actually I could just use that on the tiara. So the idea here is to build it up from the back. So you want the small glitter at the back, the very fine glitter, because that glistens, and then you want something that's bigger and has more impact at the front. So I'm starting with this. I'm just going to, I don't know how this comes out, so I'm going to just try it on. Oops, okay, so that's a bit of a blob. So what I'm going to do is I'll put a blob on here, and then I'm going to just paint it on with a brush so I can control more. Where it's going. So here's my blob. I've just got a horrible old brush. It doesn't really matter because it's going to get gummed up with glue. And I'm just going to sort of haphazardly plonk a bit of glue on here. I'm not sure it's making a huge amount of difference, but I think it will pick up a little bit of light. Actually, you have to blob quite a lot on to make it have any impact. Right, the thing about glitter is the finer the glitter, the more subtle the sparkle. So I'm going to put some slightly larger glitter on now because I want a bit more sparkle. Quite a bit more sparkly. Let's shake the surplus off. Okay, can you see that's quite a bit more sparkly? Is that enough? You can stop there or we can carry on. I'm going to carry on because I don't know when to stop. What else have I got here? What I also found when I was having a turnout were all of these little stars here, so I'm going to put some of these on as well. And I think I'm going to just put a blob of glue on, but they don't necessarily have to be flat, because as long as they're securely in place, if they're not flat they'll pick up the light in different ways, and so they'll always sparkle whichever way you're facing the light. Right, let's have a look at that. So here we've got quite a bit of sparkle. As you can see, because the stars aren't laying flat, that there's always one of them catching the light, so it should sparkle more. Now what you could do if you wanted, I'm going to stop there, but what you could do if you want to do more is you could put something perhaps on the top here, all the way along, different ones. Shall I do that? Oh, come on, let's just... It only happens once in a lifetime. Let's just go for it. So here we are. I've put stars across the top of the spikes as well as on the front. And I've also, just show you here, if you hold it up like this, it's easier to get big blobs of glue sealing the ends of all those little tubes that we've made out of foil, so that we don't get, oops, so that we don't get bits of spaghetti falling out while we're wearing it. Now the other thing I would do is, I can just open this up with one hand, put lots of glitter here, and then where you put lots of glue at the bottom, I'm just going to sit it in like that. To hide any ends which are loose. There we are. Right, so I'm going to leave that to dry, and when it's dry we're going to make it into a proper tiara that you can wear rather than just the headpiece at the front. While we're waiting for the front piece to dry, I just wanted to give you some other ideas for decoration, and these are they. If you soak spaghetti in hot water, as you would if you were cooking it, but I don't want, you know, if you're a young person, you're trying to boil water or whatever, I just put this in hot water from the tap. It did take about an hour, but eventually it goes kind of soft like this. But what you can do is, as well as sort of just twirling it round, you can make little patterns like this. I'm just going to show you here. And then you can squidge them like that, and it sticks to itself. So you can then leave that to dry, it will harden up, and then you can get it off the board. I guess what you could do is, if you put some olive oil underneath, then it wouldn't stick to the board, it would just stick to itself. And then, for example, here I've started to make a little flower, so if I just put the 5th petal in here, again I'm going to just squidge it. I'm just going to snip that with scissors, and again I'm going to leave that to harden. I haven't put oil underneath it because I wasn't thinking about that at the time, but that's what you could do to stop it sticking to the board, and then you can just kind of use something flat to lift it off the board like that. There we are. I've done that with just a piece of paper. And what you can then do is paint that or put glitter on it or whatever, and then put that on your on the front. If you don't want to do all these spaghetti tubes, or you don't want to put stars on, or you don't have stars, there are a gazillion different ways of doing it, and you know, it's up to you and your imagination to come up with something. The glory of something like this, there is no wrong solution. Right, I was going to put a bit of elastic on this, as I said at the beginning, but I think that I'm going to use cardboard, because although I have elastic in the house, I do appreciate that not everybody does. So I'm going to show you how to do it just with a bit of cardboard. I've got some of this, which I could use, but actually I've got more of what I used for this left over. I will use that. But if you've just got something flimsy like this, don't worry. All you have to do is cut 2 strips instead of 1, and fold it over on itself, double it up, and then put some sellotape over the cut edge so that it's 2 layers rather than 1 layer, and then it will be stronger, and it will support your tiara. Now, what I'm going to use is the bit of cardboard that I started out with, so it's the same thickness as that. So I'm going to cut it, I'm going to cut it the same thickness as the edge of the band here. So I'm going to make a little mark. So I'll cut it there, and I think because I've got a big head, I will need 2 of these strips. Right, so I'm going to cut that, and then I'll show you what to do next. Right, so I've cut 2 pieces of card, just to show you here. I've put 2 staples in, crossing over at the back. Whenever you put staples in, always put some sellotape round just to cover up the ends so that you don't end up catching yourself on it. Now I'm going to cover this in the matte side of the foil, and then I'm going to attach it to the headpiece. I've now covered this in foil. Literally all I've done is I've folded the ends in and folded the foil loosely over the top. What I'm going to do, I think, is just run a piece of sellotape here just to make sure it doesn't start to unravel. Just make sure that it's nice and straight along the edges. And also, because this is 2 pieces of foil, I don't want them separating and sort of coming off in the middle of the garden party. Not a good look. Right, I'll come back and show you how to join it onto the front piece of the tiara, and we will be ready for our close-up in the next piece. Now, here's a little bit for going the extra mile. I want to make sure that my tiara is a nice curve when it sits on my head. So what I've done here, while it's drying, I've stood it up in between 2 heavy objects so that if it makes a difference, and I'm not sure whether it will or not, that when the glue dries, it will actually set it in that position. So that might be worth thinking about. I'm not sure. I haven't made one of these before like this, so I'm not sure whether it will make a difference, but just in case it does, that's what I'm doing, and we'll see when it's dry what it looks like. And finally, putting it all together. It's not actually quite as simple as you think, but the easiest way I've found, particularly if you're doing this by yourself, is to position it where you want it on your head, and you want the front piece standing up slightly, so you might want the band at the back attaching, not in a straight line, but sort of like that, to make it sit up. And the way I've done it, let me just show you, is to put a clip on it here before I staple it. And I've just got a hair grip on the other side because I've only got one. When I've got it in exactly the position I want, now I'm going to staple it and cover it in sellotape. Right, so holding it in exactly the same place. Whoops, it's actually getting glued to the band. So holding it in the right place, I'm now going to staple it together. You might find it easier to do it from this angle, otherwise you end up crushing all the decorations that you very carefully put on. If any of them do come off, don't panic, just glue them back on again. And I always like to cross my staples to make it more secure. Now I'm going to put a little bit of sellotape round, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then I think we are done and ready for our garden party. And that's it, we're garden party ready. Have a wonderful Jubilee weekend, everyone, wherever you are, everywhere in the world. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Do you think she'll be watching? I think she's probably got enough tiaras of her own.